Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Reese,
Here.
Councilmember Osk,
Here.
Councilmember Davis,
Here.
Councilmember Schuldis,
Here.
Councilmember Nelson,
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Here.
Councilmember Osmus,
Here.
Councilmember Butterfield,
Here.
Councilmember O'Brien. One absent, Mr. Mayor.
Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any proposed additions or deletions from the council?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Oh, are you doing it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So because Councilmember Osmus is participating remotely, all votes tonight will have to be a voice vote.
Okay. So roll call.
Councilmember Osk,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Schuldis,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Move down to the there was no items removed from the consent agenda, so we go to the open forum, right?
Mr. Mayor, we'll go through the consent agenda items first.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor, for consideration is the City Council minutes of January 16th, 2024, the City Council work session minutes of January 22nd, the Willmar Municipal Utility Commission minutes of January 22nd, the Planning Commission minutes of January 17th, accept and final project 2101A Second Street reconstruction, accept the final project 2204 parking lot reconstruction, accept final project 2304 Block 22 Lot and Sunrise Path, consideration of a resolution appointing election judges for the 2024 presidential nomination primary election, the Economic Development Operations Board reappointment, Prairie Lakes Chapter Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation lawful gambling application, accounts payable report for January 10th, 2024 through January 31st, 2024, and for council's information, the city investment report through the end of the year, 2023.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Roll call.
Councilmember Osk,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Schuldis,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay. Open forum. I have one person, and that's Tony Lopatka. Tony, you got 3 minutes. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Tony Lopatka from 2333 Gorton Avenue Northwest. I want to talk to the council this evening about the Gorton Avenue reconstruction project as it relates to our property. Specifically, the roadway as it is currently laid out has been placed outside of the recorded easement and on our property. As part of the previous road construction in 1990, the prior owners, my parents, signed 2 easements with the city of Willmar. They signed a highway easement and a ditch and culvert easement establishing a right-of-way for Gorton Avenue and Hawk Creek. Those easements were recorded with the Canada County Registrar's Office on May 24th, 1990. As part of the negotiations at that time, the city engineer's office on behalf of the city of Willmar agreed to a, quote, quit claim, unquote, a portion of the right-of-way. That part of the agreement was not completed for reasons unknown to us. After I realized that the incorrect right-of-way was being used to design and reconstruct the street, I spoke to this council on October 16th, 2023, as part of the assessment hearing. At that time, I showed you copies of the easement agreements from the 1990 Gorton Avenue construction project. I also showed you the map of the new right-of-way that had been prepared by the city engineering office. We have since employed a local land survey firm to plot the 1990 highway easement. Their work showed that the roadway is outside of the easement by a foot or two where the curve straightens out. Other portions of the curve west of the Foot Lake outlet are within just a few feet of the easement also. Portions of the underground utilities are significantly outside of the easement in that curve and on our property. As the roadway is currently constructed, there isn't enough room anywhere in that curve for the plowed snow to fall within the easement. It will end up on our property. We're requesting that the roadway be returned to its original path. Our property is the only piece of property in this Gorton Avenue project where the course of the road is changed from its original path. Thank you. Any questions?
Well, we can't do that, Tony.
Oh, you can't ask me questions? Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
That's all.
thank you.
Thank you.
There's nobody else to speak on the open forum. We'll go into regular business and consideration of Birdie Boys LLC on sale intoxicating and Sunday liquor licenses. Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you had stated, Birdie Boys LLC is looking for approval of an on-sale intoxicating and Sunday liquor license for their establishment.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schuldis.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Bagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Next is approved plans and specs for bids 2404A. Jared?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Enclosed in your packet this evening is a resolution for approving the plans and specifications associated with the Thompson Park parking lot and the Ella Avenue Trail. This is one of the 2024 improvements that Council authorized, and that project is ready for advertisement and receipt of bids, and we recommend adoption of the resolution.
Okay, we need the introduction of the resolution.
I can enter that.
Pardon?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
we got a motion and a second. Discussion. Audrey?
Hi, thank you, Mayor Reese. Just a question, there's kind of an awkward, it comes down on the north side, and then people cross over to Thompson Parkway. Is there any, or Thompson Park, excuse me, how will that crossing over, is there any change in that, or is it still all the same?
So currently is identified to be replaced
As
it
is,
exists.
right?
Yep.
There isn't actually a crossing there, right?
Across Ella.
Yes,
At the corner there is.
at the stoplight,
At the stoplight, yeah.
but not at the park.
No. Right.
There isn't, I mean, the park is basically parking, it's not connected to the walkway either.
The parking lot is connected to the walkway.
The one that goes to Robbins Island,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of safety, just safety concerns, if there's something that should be, even just a marking or something to cross. Because people don't go to the stoplight.
I know. It's hard to have a mid-block crossing.
I know.
Yeah. But currently that is not what's planned. So
Okay.
we can look at that and see if there's anything we can do, but we'd have to take a really close look at a mid-block crossing
Just,
because that's,
Safe to assume that if you put a crossing in there, we'd need something similar to the Rice Hospital crossing on Trot?
just based on the geometry of the roadways and the traffic volumes, it would definitely be more than just paint on the road, yeah.
Okay.
but we can investigate it. It's no problem.
Audrey?
And this has nothing to do with this, but it brings to mind, there's a really awkward crossing where that accident happened, where you come down on by Walmart. And then there is markings on the road to cross over to the other side of 19th Avenue, but it's not connected to that it's to the west of that intersection. And that's a really awkward intersection to begin with the 2 lanes making left turns. Just an awareness. We were just talking about people riding bikes and just the dangerous crossings kind of thing, just hoping to be proactive.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Okay. Roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Council.
Next is request statement for qualifications for professional engineering services at the airport. Eric?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thanks for giving me some time tonight. One of the things that we're required as an airport to maintain our federal funding status is to solicit requests for qualifications from consulting engineers. The FAA recommends every 5 years. You might note that we have had our current engineer for longer than 5 years. There are some exceptions that are made when projects are ongoing. We're still waiting for the FAA's final approval of our master plan. But in meetings with the FAA recently, looking at our upcoming projects, they would like us to move forward with this request for qualifications as they anticipate the completion of that master plan coming quickly. And just with the time that's expired since we did it last, they would like us to move forward. So what we have is just a statement of a few potential projects. These are not set in stone. They come off of our CIP that's been approved by the FAA and submitted to MnDOT as well. But these are some of our potential projects that would entice consulting engineer firms to submit proposals. Once we get these proposals, they'll be evaluated. The Airport Commission suggested that we have Ms. Valiant, Mr. Box, myself, and 2 members of the Airport Commission sit on a selection committee, and then we would bring that recommendation back to the council, hopefully in early May. That would allow us to start doing some design work for the lighting project that we're hoping to have federal funding for in fiscal year 2025, federal fiscal 25. With that, I would stand for any questions.
Council, Carl?
So the, number one, the delay in the approval is not on your end, that's on the FAA end.
Correct, yeah. So the airport master plan was actually submitted to the FAA in 2018. We went through this process. Oddly enough, typically they would recommend looking at that master plan every 5 years, which to my country math is about right now. They have allowed us to continue to do projects even without that approval. And what has happened at the FAA is there's been a lot of turnover. And so it's a large document, and typically as you get somebody new in the office, they don't start the review process from where the last person left off. They start from the beginning again. And so that's happened a couple of times, and it's pushed us back. Now they're very close. In fact, the master plan is currently back with our current consulting engineers for a couple of questions to be answered, but we anticipate that completion very quickly. And thankfully, we had these discussions for about 1.5 years at the Airport Commission, knowing that this was going to come up, and so we were in a position to react quickly as the FAA said, hey, we want you to do this right now.
And we're okay moving ahead with these projects without that approval?
Correct. Without that finalized master plan.
Right.
Again, typically that's one of the boxes we have to check is an updated master plan. The FAA is allowing us to use our master plan in process to check the box for those projects moving forward, as they acknowledge that there's been difficulties on their end for sure.
All right, we need a motion.
I so move.
Second.
Here we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Gary, keep it flying upward.
We'll do it.
All right. Next item, Public Works roller purchase. Justin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. The item for your consideration tonight is to adopt a resolution authorizing purchase of a new asphalt roller and trailer for our street patching program. Our current roller was recommended for replacement by the Vehicle Replacement Committee in May of '23, and funds for a new roller and trailer were approved in the 2024 CIP. Our current roller is a very large, heavy piece of equipment that was designed more for dirt and base compaction, and it is too large for us to put on a trailer to get around town. You've probably seen it driving very slowly from place to place. So that can be very time consuming. The new roller that we are proposing is a smaller compaction roller that we can put on a trailer to get to different parts of town. The trailer will also have multiple uses, as it will be rated to haul our bobcats and our mowers and things like that. So we can get multiple uses out of that trailer. Both the trailer and the roller are available through the Sourcewell State Cooperative Purchasing Program for a total price of $56,791.45. And I would ask that the council adopt the resolution authorizing purchase, and I will stand for any questions.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
Second.
we got a motion and a second. Questions? Carl?
Is it possible to sell the current roller, or would we keep that? or-
So the current part of this price is trade-in for the current roller. So Titan Machinery would take trade-in, and I believe they gave us roughly $31,000 for trade-in. So,
Okay. Any other questions? Or Rick?
So the roller will meet your needs then, even though it won't be as heavy as the original one?
Correct. Yep.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Consideration of broadband community outreach and education. Kyle?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. At our last work session, the council's last work session on January 22nd, the council was introduced to not only what we're going to be talking about tonight, but a general update on the Connect Willmar initiative. And that is the proposed fiber, open access fiber project, infrastructure project for the city. Specifically tonight, we're going to be talking about the community outreach and education proposal, which is to promote the Connect Willmar initiative. The goal of this proposal is to create awareness, maximize support, and create substantial commitment to the Connect Willmar initiative among residents, business owners, stakeholders within the community. There are 3 main objectives within the proposal. Again, to introduce the benefits and raise awareness of the city's plan to bring open access fiber optic internet to the community, to cultivate businesses and resident support for the initiative by highlighting the project's reliability, the affordability, speed, and sustainability, both financially and otherwise. And then lastly, to develop the City of Willmar's public image as a technological advanced and innovative place to live and work. The significance of this proposal really can't be overstated. This is a key piece to this project. The proposed project is going to be bringing infrastructure that will be owned by the city. Community support and involvement will play a pivotal role in ensuring its success. To generate the excitement and create momentum, this promotion offers transparency, creates trust, and solidifies support to give community leaders the ability to move forward in full confidence in the success of the initiative. So from the 22nd work session meeting, staff have had an opportunity to review the proposal. There wasn't a lot of there were some vocal suggestions from the council and the mayor at that work session. But it was really hard for us to pick and choose what would be the best option for Willmar when this proposal. Of course, we want the most that they're offering, but we realize we need to be fiscally responsible as well. So we came up with an idea, and Hometown is on board with it as well. But we're recommending the Tier 1 option, which is in your proposal, in your packet. But instead of it just being a flat dollar amount, we're asking it to be a not-to-exceed dollar amount. And what I mean by that, it gives us the ability as staff to work with staff and with Hometown and really assess the needs where we need to put those resources. So maybe it's not doing 3 things of direct advertisement, maybe it's only 1 or 2, and it gives us the option to kind of give and take, but it really it would not be exceeding the dollar amount that's shown in the packet. Our goal would be to have that less, but it gives the staff and Hometown that flexibility. The city, like I said, the city would retain the ability to choose and eliminate line items within Tier 1 or elect to do some items in-house rather than assigning it to Hometown. And then lastly, before I turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor, funds to initially pay for this proposal would be assigned from the Industrial Park Fund and would be reimbursed to the city when bond proceeds for the infrastructure project would be issued. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions, council? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So at that workshop, I didn't know that there was a representative from Spectrum there, and he wanted to speak, but no one was allowed to other than Hometown, Fiber, or whatever they're called.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of doing this right away, why don't we have a workshop and invite all the internet providers, and I guess there's 8 to 10 that provide services in Willmar, and hear from them to find out what they're planning on doing in the next year. Spectrum told me they're having a big project in July.
Okay.
So Intel or Windstream, I think they're kind of ongoing with fiber optic. So it makes no sense to me to rush into this. Now, that I did hear, the city of Monticello tried this 15, 18 years ago, and it was a mistake for them. Pine County was going to do this. They backed out. Alexandria was going to do it. They backed out. South Haven had signed a contract with Hometown. They just backed out. So I'd like to know what's going on. Did city staff investigate any of this?
Councilmember Fagerly, yes, that's a great question. We've had an opportunity, I don't know all those scenarios, but we had an opportunity to look at the Monticello project, the Alexandria project, which just recently that was back in 1990, I believe was just recently sold in 2018 or 2016. So it was operational for that period of time. And then there was another project that we were made aware of in Lake County, which I believe is Two Harbors, Silver Bay, not Grant, up in that area. We had an opportunity to look at all those projects, and none of those projects are quite like what we're proposing. When we had an opportunity to meet with some consultants or people to give us advice and guidance on this, we were reaffirmed that this is truly a first of its kind project to be introduced. The way it's being proposed, the way it's being designed, the way we're taking the model of creating infrastructure for private business to be a part of and thrive as a private business, we are just providing them an avenue to conduct their business on. But I'm unfamiliar. was aware that a charter representative after the meeting was at that workshop, but I was not contacted, staff was not contacted ahead of time with their wanting or request to speak at the meeting. So I'm hearing that for the first time, but if there's a need from the council or a want from the council to set up a meeting with ISPs, we can workshop that and see what's doable.
Well, I know he's willing to come and talk to us, and Vibrant over in Litchfield, they're willing to come and talk, and Windstream is. And I'm not sure about the wireless ones, but there is interest. I know Spectrum told me they have 8,000 customers right now. And they're not gonna hook up to your system, because if there's a cut in the fiber, or in the optic, they want their own people to go and repair it immediately. With Hometown, it's not gonna happen that way.
Yeah, I would counter with that those details are still being finalized. That's why tonight you don't see the operations agreement in front of you. That was also an item that we had talked about on the 22nd. But there's opportunity in there for field technicians from the internet service providers, those companies, to still be those field technician, whether it's connections at the house or you still have a problem. The first person you're going to call would be that company. Your example, if there is fiber that is cut, that's the city in this case, or this example, that would be city infrastructure, and the city and or Hometown would be responsible for fixing that. So that would be that scenario. But the details in that agreement are still being finalized.
And if Spectrum did come on and there was a cut, and they have nothing to do with repairing it, they're the ones that are gonna get blamed for it. So,
I think that's a fair point, and I think it's how we manage that and how we manage that from the Hometown and the city side of it as well.
and then another question, we have a municipal utilities, don't we, in town?
Correct.
Is fiber, is that considered a utility?
I would make the argument that it is, yes.
Okay, and why aren't they doing anything about this?
Without the general manager here, I don't want to speak on behalf of the general manager.
I know they did do something 15 years ago when Intel or Windstream came in, and something went wrong and they sold out or
Sure.
lost their,
These are all great questions, and absolutely every single one of them is worth investigating and worth our time to talk about and to weigh these options. It's a big decision for the community. It's a huge decision for the council to move forward with a project like this. We've put together a really good team of people to evaluate and look at all these questions. The risk isn't going to go away, but it's our job as staff to give you, to mitigate that risk as best as possible. And we'll work on answering those questions and getting you a good response, a response back. Technology has changed a lot when it comes to how internet and fiber is delivered. So when we're looking at old case studies of other municipalities that have tried and failed, things have changed.
and they'll continue to.
And they will continue to change. And how can we best set up this infrastructure to be adaptable and to change with the future?
When we originally talked about this last fall, it was like 20 million.
Yep.
Now it's 25 million.
The bond, yes. So yes, but the intent to reimburse resolution was for 25 million to look for any bond issuance costs or any other fees that would go with it. But the fiber project itself is right around the $22 million mark, I would say at this point.
And that's a lot of money,
It's a lot of money.
especially when we're looking at City Hall for 20 million and Community Center 20 million. And we can go broke.
Right, and we, to that point, we would not be presenting this to you unless we had a plan in place, and again, to mitigate that risk as best as possible. But we'll continue to dive into this, answer your questions, and give you the best response, or a response to all those questions as well, to help you make those decisions.
Kyle, I'm trying to figure out how I ask this question and not offend anybody, but sometimes you don't have that opportunity to not offend. There seems to be interest all of a sudden from the standing service providers to jump on the wagon, but why didn't they jump on before we started this process?
That's a great question, and I don't have their perspective, but we would love nothing but for providers to be a part of this network. I think it only makes the project more successful and our services that are being provided in Willmar even more successful. That's just my opinion.
Well, they evidently see a need if they want to jump on the wagon. So, I don't know, it just raises questions for me. Tom?
Just to follow up on Councilmember Fagerly with Spectrum. I received a phone call last Friday from the same gentleman that Rick did. And I came up and I asked him, I said, would Spectrum be willing to jump on board with this? And he came out and said, nope, no way, no how are we gonna do this? Perhaps same thing that Rick said, that, if there's cut in the fiber, we're gonna get customer service calls and it's gonna make us look bad. We won't be able to fix it, and who knows how long it's gonna be. And he goes, does the city have a tech on hand? Is that somebody that we're gonna have to hire now to have somebody on call to be going out and fixing this? And then are we budgeting for any of this if we
That's a great question, Councilmember Butterfield. In the draft agreement that was handed out on the 22nd, there is a couple of, I believe there's a couple of areas that are in that agreement that talk about field technicians, and that would be a responsibility of the manager of the network. So in this case, Hometown Fiber, not the city. In the city budget for 2024, the only budget cost that was put in was for a 50% time utility billing clerk to help out with any billing issues, but there are no other staff members that were planned to be a part of this this project at this time. So again, those responsibilities would be onto the manager of the network, which would be Hometown.
Yeah, just with everything I heard from Spectrum, I'm kind of in agreement with what Fagerly said. I think we should put this on hold and, see if TDS wants to get in, they're local, stuff like that. And maybe there's people in Willmar that would rather purchase from a local company than versus like Comcast or Spectrum or something like that. I think we really should see, do we have 15, 20? Or do we have one or two that wants to get in this? So
There are some, we can't really get into the details at this time, but those, there are some behind the scenes conversations happening with other internet service providers. And that's about as much as I'll say at this time on that, but we are looking for people reaching out to us to be a part of this.
Vicky?
If if my memory serves me right, I think Justice Walker wanted fiber out to Industrial Park, correct? And then he went to all these companies and nobody wanted to help. That's why we have Hometown Fiber, because these companies didn't want anything to do with it back then.
That's not true.
Isn't that
Vibrant
what?
over in Litchfield gave a proposal and it never came to us.
Huh.
If I can help clarify with that. So during the RFP process, like Councilmember Davis was discussing on the industrial park, the city did receive 3 proposals. The broadband committee recommended the Hometown Fiber proposal to the council. The city received a proposal from Vibrant, Windstream, and then from Meeker County Cooperative as well. So the city did receive 3 proposals for this project. And the Hometown was the one that was brought forward to the council at the recommendation of the broadband committee.
Audrey?
You sort of answered the question, I think. Councilmember Butterfield was asking if there was, Councilman Bagerly brought it up too, if there is a cut. So if I think about, we then are going to need to have somebody in town. It's like the Hometown Fiber will have trucks and things and they will be located in Willmar.
Again,
No, I think that's important
No,
to understand that you're not having someone drive from Minneapolis out here to fix something.
absolutely. And in that agreement, there's a paragraph in there that talks about having a on-site or a physical building in town to be able to send out field technicians to answer phone calls. So that detail would be in there for a representative of Hometown to be based in Willmar to go out and fix any issues that do come up.
So those types of things are in that hometown fiber agreement, or is that something the city of Wilmer has to provide?
Hometown, as the manager, in this case, Hometown Fiber would be responsible for those.
For the
field
service.
technicians, for the service, yeah. So any, right now, it's defined as major, there's infrastructure, let's say the line does get cut. We, as the owner of the network, could be financially responsible for that, but we'll have the assistance and guidance of Hometown on how to repair that,
Okay.
if that answers your question.
Well, it does, but I think of the, like, major people who can't afford to have their systems go down kind of thing. It feels like
Yeah.
there would need to be substantial documentation to reassure someone who's considering this that they're not putting their business at risk.
Yeah, in the way it's designed, and I don't want to we can, but in the way the network architecture is designed, there's going to be redundancies put in place. So let's say you've got a block here, and one of the ends of the streets, the fiber gets cut. Well, there'll be redundancies and systems put in place to reroute that data to come in from another area, another direction. I don't have the architecture in front of me. I couldn't get, but just speaking plainly, that's an idea of how it could work, or how it would work. Would there still be outages? Yes, but it wouldn't affect on a mass scale. Might just be limited to a resident or a business.
Yeah, I got a question, but it says community outreach and education. Can you define that a little better?
Yeah, so a fancy word for marketing. But what it is, it's getting this project out in the community. It's being able for us to explain what this confusing project might be. It is to go door to door, to be in the residents, to talk with residents, to have community gatherings, to have information sessions. It's to provide information on the project and to be as transparent as we can with the project, and all from the good to the risky to everything. We want people to be comfortable with the project and support the project, and that's, if we can gather that data, it helps us in a couple of ways. If we can help collect data, help garner support for a project, if there's people that are eager to sign up and wanting to sign up, it shows us that maybe a proof of concept that this works. It helps us with when we go to sell bonds. It helps us with having that information to show bondholder or to whoever's going to buy these bonds that there is X amount of customers signed up, so we know we've got X amount of revenue coming in to pay these bonds back. It helps the council make their decision maybe more informative when you can see community, residential and business support for a project like this. When we get further down the road, council is asked to act on the operations agreement. After that point, you'll start to see agreements coming in through internet service providers that want to be a part of this. So this is continually moving. It's continually evolving. We're learning as we go as well, and summarizing and putting the data together to convey to you. But this piece right here, it's the engagement piece with the community, with the stakeholders, with businesses, allow them to ask questions, to explain what the project is. And again, for the city to be transparent on what the real risks are.
So beyond outreach and education, it'll be a feeler?
Sure.
I
mean, again, it's to raise awareness, initiate or cultivate support, and really identify and market Willmar as a technologically advanced community.
Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. I just wanted to say I appreciate your thought process with the up to amount. I thought we might land on tier 2 in the middle there, but I think what you're doing is taking that approach to see what needs to be done. But my second part of my question is, how important is it that this is done tonight? With some of the questions that council members have raised, is it worth tabling this to answer some questions before we take the next step, or what are your
Yeah.
words of wisdom?
Yeah, that's a great question. Couldn't it be tabled? You could. It just delays, if we, we're on a timeline of a construction. I mean, we've got a narrow window for a construction cycle. We've got a set timeline. We know how long it takes us to call for bonds, to act on bonds. If when we get to that point, it's about a 90-day clock. And the way we look at it from the bonding perspective is, we know we want to bond on the first meeting in May. Well, we need to count back 90 days, and that's when we need to start our process, or whatever that date would be. So it delays it, and then if we get too far into the year, we might not see any construction this year, and we might be coming to the council in the fall for a request that way, and we might try and get something done in the fall, but it would push the project back. That's what it would do. So 2 weeks is, I mean, it only sounds like 2 weeks, but it affects the whole project. Could affect the whole project, but that decision is the council's to make.
Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think how I look at this project is I view it as a utility, as you indicated earlier. I had an experience at my house not too long ago where I was without water for a weekend, and I decided to myself I would rather be without water for a weekend than without internet. My children are much easier to entertain without water. They get stinkier, but we can deal with that. Councilmember Butterfield mentioned some local, internet service providers. I think this benefits them. I feel like this allows us to work with local, more small town providers. I think that is to their advantage. I'm not surprised that very large internet service providers have concerns about this. We were told when we started this that would happen. This is something that we're going to, in theory, be providing faster internet at similar or maybe even lower cost than what our citizens are currently being provided. I think that's a great benefit to our community. I think it's a huge benefit to the industrial park. I guess I have some questions about timeline, and I think you spoke to some of these. The operations agreement, when would you expect that we would see that?
Our goal is, we're working with the city attorney, with Hometown Fiber. Our goal was to try and have it to you tonight. There's just some unanswered questions still, so our goal would be the next meeting on the 20th.
Okay.
If we can get all of our questions that we need answered.
Sure, because there's part of me that, had you not responded to Councilmember Nelson's question about tabling it already, would think it'd be real nice if we could see that operations agreement before we greenlighted something like this. It's, since you've mentioned, this idea of, can we approve something not to exceed? If this was revisited in 2 weeks, and in the meantime, we came up with a new amount not to exceed to start some of this process?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, if we said, does 25 get you started?
More than enough, yeah.
Okay.
We wouldn't need that much in 2 weeks, but we can spend it. But
Okay. How much do you need for 2 weeks?
Sky's the limit. I would say realistically, to get something in motion, it would just be a lot of communication, planning within the next 2 weeks. So there might not even be it'd be tough for me to give you a dollar amount right now, but if we at least could start planning and start moving forward, if we had maybe up to, if the council is willing to do 25,000 or even up to 15,000, that's more than enough to get us started in 2 weeks.
Okay. But I'll make a motion to approve community outreach and, education proposal from Hometown Fiber in an amount not to exceed 20,000.
Second.
You got a motion and a second. Discussion. Here, Tom?
So no, it's 20,000 if Hometown Fiber city office come back and say we need more, then are they gonna come back asking for more, or are we just setting this and saying 20,000, that's gonna be your limit?
My intention in the motion is that they would come back to us once they had that full user agreement. We could, we get to look more into that, and then it would be our option then to green light more funding, or to say, here's where we're going to stop this proposal.
Any other questions?
Question.
Rick?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So Hometown, do they have any employees right now?
Yes,
Any
Right.
technicians, linemen, anything like that?
I can't answer that.
That'd be kind of interesting to know.
Mhm.
Are they waiting for this?
They offer other I don't know the extent of their operation on that field of it, but I mean, they do have other consulting services with other entities in the region, Metro and Western Wisconsin. And all that information's on their website and what they provide and what they do. But I don't know how many field
So
technicians
are
they have.
we inviting the other providers to a workshop so they could talk ahead of time, or?
If that's what the council would want, we can work on that. I would maybe need a little bit more guidance on what you'd want to achieve out of that meeting.
Well, I'd like to know what each one has for customers, what the average price is, because if it's gonna be $50 or below, you aren't gonna make it. The city isn't gonna make it. So,
Yeah, and we do have a lot of that some of that pro forma data already put together on what we need to,
how come we have all this stuff put together, but we haven't seen anything?
yep, that's a good,
That's why we need to have committee meetings, not little pods of people talking. We're the ones that have to make the decision,
yep,
and we don't see nothing.
yep. It will be presented to you. Again, it's still putting information together. We don't have all the totals back. There's some information that we still are gathering from, through Hometown Fiber. We're working on construction documents and what those final totals will look like, so we know what a bond request would be. And then we know what those pro forma numbers would be to make sure we're capturing what we need to pay those bonds back, and what we can charge for an industrial user, what we can charge for a residential user, what speeds. So I mean, it's a lot of information that would get compiled and showed to you. Again, this is a moving piece. This is an evolving project. We're putting together and summarizing and putting together the information when we feel it's appropriate to share with you. If we showed you that information now, it's likely going to change. But we can maybe do a highlight at the next meeting. We could look at putting a summary of what that would look like when a example of a performer, what we have right now. That could be something that we could work on. But to give you final numbers, I wouldn't want to, we don't have the final numbers yet, so I wouldn't want to share that with
Well, that would just be an estimate anyway.
the best guess, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
a guesstimate.
Yep, we can work on something like that. That's not an issue.
Audrey?
So the motion that we're being asked to vote on is for 20,000. Is this a better option for you than just tabling it for 2 weeks? Does this help us to take the next steps or get the information that council members are asking to help make the decision?
Yeah, it helps me in a couple of ways. It helps us get going right away, so we can have that conversation right away tomorrow. We can start putting together a plan in place, and knowing that we've got some dollars assigned to this proposal, we can get going on that as soon as tomorrow. And then in the meantime, yes, we'll put together some information to bring back to the council at the next meeting to make those decisions. I guess an amended request another request at the 20th would be looking at this same proposal with an amended dollar amount showing a $20,000 reduction from what the motion is this evening.
Tom?
So before we vote on this, I would like to know, will we have a work session before we vote on any more of the stuff from Hometown? Because I really don't know what Spectrum's all doing, but they told me they're coming up with something else. I would like to see if TDS and other local ones, are gonna get involved in on this, before I would even commit, giving anything towards this, if we don't have the commitment from other companies, I can't see going forward with this project. So I would like to at least know we're gonna have a workshop lined up before 2 weeks before we would vote on this again.
I don't know if we've got a set, do we have a workshop agenda set for the 11th?
We'd have to have a workshop next
Workshop on Monday.
And I don't know, that means we'd have to have a workshop next Monday, and I don't know if we could get those companies all lined up. I mean, I don't think that'd be fair to say, hey, we want you next Monday here, and have all your information put together. I don't know, there is a committee on this. We have council people on that committee, and we have some very good people that are on this committee that are working outside of the broadband, outside of through the county too. So I think we have a lot of people that have looked at really hard at this. Sorry, Mr. Michael O'Brien wasn't here tonight to explain what the committee has worked on and what they've talked about. But I think the committee's worked very hard on it and has asked some of the really hard questions, and that's what committee are supposed to do, and they've been doing that. And you do have council members on that committee. So I think that, I don't know if we could get to a committee, a workshop together by next Monday night. Can't say that that would be possible. Probably not till the end of February. I think that when outside companies say they're going to perform and do something, sometimes that has to be taken with a grain of salt, because we do not have them under contract to perform and do something either. So they could say one thing and not do it. I've known that's happened before too. So I see this as a recommendation that it's to bring us into the future, brings the city into the future as that infrastructure needs, just as a need for roads, streets, water, sewer, and then that backbone that's there, then the infrastructure is the city's, and the city would continue to make sure that our residents have the most up-to-date speed into the future also, because I believe, as Laura Lewis had said, it's not a matter of the cabling in the ground that needs to be changed in the future. It's what's on the ends that need to be changed. Your equipment needs to be changed to change whatever new stuff comes out in the future. So once the cable, the fiber is in the ground, that'll be there. The question is how many strands of fiber are we going to have in the ground? Because you have some that'll be dark, and then that adds your capacity into the future. So I see that this, especially starting out in the industrial park, with the vision of what new companies can come out into our park. Aaron Backman had alluded, I believe, at one of our conversations that it cost a company $70,000 for their fiber. But if our fiber is going past that company, it won't cost them $70,000. New companies are going to take that into consideration when they want to look at this city for where they're going to come. They're going to take that, the city has infrastructure for fiber. The city has water. The city has sewer. The city has, and when new companies look at cities, site selections, they look at, can we provide water? How much water capacity do we have? What does our sewer infrastructure look like? Now they can look at what we have for internet systems.
So it just puts us that much further ahead than any other site selection, just as our railroad system also. Now with the Y, that puts us ahead. That's why BNSF asked us to be a shovel-ready site, because it puts us ahead for other site selectors. So I just would encourage this and let the committee continue doing their job and move forward and see what they can get for $20,000. And if it's, it's a matter of that their survey isn't complete either. But in all intentions, I believe that Marlena had indicated that the survey numbers are looking good and they're constantly looking the same. That there is no drawback here for this.
All right. You all know Justin's, Councilmember Osk's motion. Any other questions? Carl?
I would just add, I think, what you had said, Mayor Reese, it's interesting that now these other companies are coming forward that there's a threat to that they perceive this threat. And to me, that says that this maybe is a good thing, that if they're feeling threatened by it. So just wanted to add that.
Okay. That's a roll call.
I'll take it. Councilmember Osk,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Schultes,
All right.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield.
No.
5 ayes, 1 nay.
You got Peg.
Oh, Rick, I'm sorry.
You didn't see me, yeah?
No, sorry.
No.
5 ayes, 2 nays.
Motion passes. Thank you, Kyle. Stay there.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's why we don't let Leslie do roll calls, right?
City branding initiative, Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is another exciting thing that we staff and some council members have been working on over the last, about 7 months. So if you remember back in April of 2023, we were before you asking for requests for proposals for the city to search for qualified consultants to research, create, develop, and help generate an implementation plan for a city branding initiative for the city of Willmar. Just a little history, back in the 1990s, the flying red W was adopted as the official city logo. Since a brand development strategy or standards were not created during that process, we talked about various department logos, as you're well aware, were created, developed, and independently and respectively by each department. So it creates a little inconsistency and messaging and marketing and for the city overall. And so that was one of the objectives when we moved into this project. So the objective of the branding project was to create a new identity for Willmar and all of the city departments to adopt and utilize for one brand for messaging and promotion. Primary goals for this project were to create uniformity, community identity, and pride, community and an economic development promotion, brand flexibility, and community endorsement. Branding and changing the current logo will be done strategically, with least expensive changes completed first. Some of those things might be something as simple as refreshing the city website, updating email signatures. That doesn't cost us anything. Or when we look at business cards, pens, pencils, those types of things. Again, those will all be designed and recommended strategy through the new brand standards. Again, the city received 20 proposals from professional consultants with vast backgrounds, professional experience, and data-driven results. The rebranding committee included 4 people, including council members Osmus and Davis, Administrator Valiant, and myself. Replace was selected by the committee and recommended to the council for the rebranding. And that was approved by the council on June 20th, 2023. And again, as I mentioned, since July, over the last 7+ months, Replace has been working on Willmar's brand. There's been some community and stakeholder engagement, multiple design directions, and exploring. They did a really good job of exploring Willmar's history. Those were key elements for this project. The rebranding committee worked alongside with Replace to develop a brand logo reflective of Willmar's history and the future growth of Willmar. Deliverables have been presented and provided to the city, and with the approval of the brand, staff will begin to organize a brand launch, which we are anticipating for Wednesday, February 21st. And as a reminder on the budget side of it, there is $17,000 approved in the 2024 budget for rebranding and marketing material. So the obvious is you don't see anything in your packets tonight. We did show almost all of the council members ahead of time. We had an opportunity to sit down with you, show you what the direction, show you what the brand strategy is. Again, we wanted to show that to you so you weren't asked to vote on something that you had never seen before tonight, but we want to build up some anticipation and have a more community staff launch with the brand later this month is what we're asking for from council tonight. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll stand for any questions this time.
Questions from the council? None? You sure? Audrey, you gotta have a question.
Well, I do, but usually you want us to make a motion before you ask the question. So if you want me to ask the question, I'll ask. I'll go ahead. I know that you did reach out to other entities about trying to work together with that. So if I understand correctly, right now this branding really only represents the city. It doesn't represent the EDC or the CVB or the municipal utilities or some of the other things. So from a marketing standpoint, it's an internal just city. It's not the area. It's not reaching out beyond. If I think of Bemidji or I think of this is not giving us that kind of thing for the area.
Yeah.
And did you could you share who you reached out to and?
Absolutely. That was one of the key points, one of the big things that we wanted to try and accomplish when we started this, because there are so many entities in town that work with each other. Starting with the city, obviously we have got partnerships with the EDC. We have partnerships. We rely on the Chamber of Commerce. We rely on the Willmar Convention Visitors Bureau. We were able to sit down with some of these groups and share what the city was doing along the way, whether it's fonts, whether it's color palettes, whether it's design looks, and how they can incorporate it in when they're in the midst of their rebranding as well. It's up to those. Obviously, they have independent boards and decision-making that they need to do, but we've shared and communicated Willmar's vision, the city of Willmar's vision, and I think it was received very well by the people that we presented to. So I guess it's in their hands on what they want to do with their groups, but the goal of all of this is to kind of create that uniformity citywide, not to be the same for every organization, but to provide, whether it's a color palette or a text or a font, it's to create that vision of, I've seen that before, this must be in the Willmar area, or, those key factors where you can recognize and hone in, trying to create, like I said, create that uniformity community-wide. So, yes, other entities were reached out to. We've shared some information, design information, color information. Those entities were receptive, and it's up to them and their boards to move forward with it.
At this time, there isn't anyone else, they haven't said, yes, we'll follow, or yes, we'll participate.
I don't,
Well,
nothing definitive, no.
no, and in the beginning of this whole process, we asked all those stakeholders what the design, what ideas they had, what was the history that they would say the city of Willmar is. If you all answered the question, there was a triangle that was part of this questionnaire, and it was all sent to the council members. It was all sent out to stakeholders. Ideas as to what do you see, is Willmar more of a tech side of it? Is Willmar more a history side of it, or is Willmar more of a pretty side of it type sort of thing is what the triangle actually indicated. And the idea is that when they see these things, marketers and our branding people, when they see the ideas and what people bring back as comments to them, then they try to engage and get into the center of all three of those and hit the center mark of all three of those. Because they see, okay, well, we're more tech or whatever, and then they try to design something towards the center of those ideas that everybody has given them. And at the beginning, we also, after we received our first look of it, those stakeholders were also talked to at the beginning of it also. They were also shown everything that was out from the beginning too, to get their feedback on the first renderings, which was, how many?
7 different directions.
Yes, so, and then that honed them down to a direction of 3. And then from there, we honed it down to, the committee honed it down to 1 idea. And then from that, though, too, we also have various ways we can redesign the initial also.
If I may, just one more, then I'll quit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I was gonna,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say you were right in that I would like to have a motion before
I know.
the discussion.
I have to say that I am truly sad that we're going away from the red W. I really am. I understand and I appreciated, the work that I've seen. I appreciate that. But for me, I am sad to see the red W going away.
Yes, Vicki.
I like the red W too, but I'll be happy to see a unified logo everywhere. The trucks, everything will have the same logo and it'll make us look really professional. And I want to say it was fun to work with the people from Replace. They're super professional. They worked really hard for us. They walked around the town, took pictures of everything, and it was just really neat to see that whole process.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the city branding initiative.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Osk,
Aye.
Nelson,
No?
Davis,
Aye.
Schultes,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
Fagerly.
No.
So we have 5 ayes and 2 noes.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any announcements from any of you?
Yes.
Yes, Vicki.
Just want to say the girls hockey team, the Cardinals, they will be playing in the semifinals on Saturday night at 7 o'clock at the Civic Center. They're either playing against Litchfield or Mankato West.
You got one playing?
No, mine aren't old enough.
Okay.
One more.
Anybody else? Tom?
I believe, don't take me right on this, but I believe this is the week Girl Scouts start selling their cookies. So if you know anybody in Girl Scouts, reach out to them. I'm sure they appreciate it. But I'm not sure if it's this week they start or not.
Okay. I get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.